Hi guys, I'm here today to do my October read. I read 9 books, listened to 2, and started 1. The first book I read was Garden of Letters by Allison Richmond. I started reading this in September, and I think I finished it October 1st, so this should really be a September read book, but I needed the extra day, and October's where I found it. But I really liked this. I gave it 4.5 stars. You could see my blog below and also my video review below. I'll link them. But yeah, I really liked it. I gave it 4.5 stars. I just wanted to know more. Like, I wanted a little bit more after the book and like at the end what happened to the characters. But it was really good, and I hopefully in the future I'll read a little bit more by Allison Richmond. The next thing I read was the novella by Rick Riordan called Staff of Serpis. This is the e-novella series that combines the Percy Jackson and the Kane Chronicle series. This book focused on Sadie and Annabeth, and I really liked it. I gave it 5 stars. I just love his writing style. I could read Rick Riordan for days and be perfectly content. And I'm really excited. When I went to his book signing, he told me that there's going to be a 3rd one in this series that comes out soon. So yeah, I also am still in the middle of reading Percy Jackson's Greek Gods, so that's going to be probably a November, maybe December read, just because it's really big, but I love it. I really, really enjoyed it, but it's not anywhere close to being done. The next book I read was The Clockwork Scarab by Colleen Gleason. I really like this book. This is the second time that I read it. I last read it last year, but I reread it because Spirit Glass Charade is out, and I wanted to refresh myself about the characters and such. But I really liked it. I gave it 5 stars, and hopefully I'll be able to read Spirit Glass Charade next month. The next novella I read was In Time by Alex. I am so glad I re-listened / read the novellas in this series because I think it makes the series a lot stronger as a whole. I really didn't get the connection between Darkest Minds and Never Fade, but now that In Time, it really solidified it for me. I gave it 5 stars. I got to see one of my favorite characters again, and it was really, really heartbreaking, and it prepared me to read Never Fade, which is the second book in the series, which I then started listening to after this. The next book I read, was The Levin Meringue Pie Murder by Joanne Foucault. After this book, I finished this. I did start reading it before Clockwork Scarab, but went back and I finished Clockwork Scarab, and then I picked up The Star Won't Go Out Back. For anyone that does not know, Esther Earle is the girl that some say loosely inspired A Fault in Our Stars by John Green. John Green knew her, and she also had a very similar, if not the same, illness as Hazel did in A Fault in Our Stars. This book was published after she unfortunately passed away, and it is told in a really unique perspective. It has a foreword by John Green, and it then has diary entries and drawings from Esther throughout her life leading up to her unfortunate departure from this world. And then it has medical information from her parents and also stuff from her friends in this online community that created. And I think that it gives a very well-rounded knowledge and experience about this girl this girl's life. And it was really, really gripping, really, really sad, really, really heartbreaking. I gave it 5 stars. It was really interesting to read. If you at all like John Green or all like fandom or online communities, I highly recommend you give it a read. Especially if you liked Fault in Our Stars. I think it gives, again, to see kind of where he might have got the idea for the book. And it's not based on it directly at all, but it's just kind of ironic in a little ways. But I really liked it, and I hope you guys pick it up. The next book I read was Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas. Crown of Midnight is the second book in Sarah J. Maas's series called Thorn of Our Glass. I really liked the first book. I gave it 4 stars. I just thought it lacked a little bit of world building and character development, but that was very much rectified in Crown of Midnight. It was such a good book. I will link my non-spoiler review below that I did a video on. I just loved it. I loved the triangle that was developed. I loved the intrigue, the political stuff. I loved really seeing Selena grieve. It was a really, really good book. Was on a little bit of a time crunch for it, so I had to like read it in like a certain amount of time, but I like did not want to put it down. And that's a really, really good book. She really created a world and she left it on a really interesting cliffhanger. Hopefully next month I'm going to read The Assassin Blades, which is a collection of novellas, and then I'm going to go on to read Air of Fire. I did not see the ending coming, and that's hard to do to me in fantasy novels, but I'm so excited. So hopefully I'll get to read those soon. After Crown of Midnight, I read Sparks Rise, which is a novella by Alexander. Sparks Rise is the second novella that Alexandra Bracken wrote. It comes after Never Fade and leads into In the Afterlight. I thought last month when I read Crossing the Line by Katie McGarry, that was probably my favorite novella. This might be one of my favorites because it was emotionally gut-wrenching. Like, I physically was like in pain after reading this novella. So if you have not read the novellas in this series and you're on the fence, I highly recommend you read it. I must know what happens to these characters, so they best be in the afterlife, or not, I'll be really, really sad. But I asked Alexandra Bracken that question, and she was very, very coy, which makes me think there's reason to believe that they are in the afterlife. One can only hope. After Sparks Rise, I read Countdown, which is the fourth book in the 39 Clues series. I really like the 39 Clues series. This is the the third series I've read by these set of authors, and I really like them. It was a good book. It was just, again, it was like, it made my heart hurt, but that in like a good way. So hopefully I'll be able to read the last book this month, and hopefully they come up with a new series soon, because I really like these books. And the last thing I read was Never Fade by Alex. I'm about 100 pages into In the Afterlife, but I'm really excited to see where it goes. So check out my November TBR video, and I hope you guys have a nice night.